Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Kizer Mini Paragon. It is anything but a mini knife. This is a pretty big and pretty ridiculous pocket knife, but these are the types of things that make what I do a little bit more interesting. So in a lot of ways, I am very appreciative of it. I just checked. This knife should be available at the time of this upload. I will link it right down below so you guys can check it out if you want to. As per usual, it is entirely up to you whether or not you want to, but it does help my channel when you use those links down there. Thanks so much to this gentleman here. He just started a YouTube channel. So make sure that you guys go over there and check him out. I think he's got a couple of uploads, but good to support other people in the community. Thank you so much to Skippies_Slicers for sending this in. This will go back to him when I am done. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this mini Paragon. The overall length is coming in at, jeez, let's get a perfect. Okay, to the butt of the knife, not including the, what looks like a micarta breaker, or I think it's just the back of the spacer. 8.5 inches to the back of the handle, almost 8 3/4 inches to the back of the spacer there. Blade length is coming in at about 3.5 inches. Your cutting edge is also, actually the cutting edge, because of the positioning in the back of the blade, is actually longer at about 3.6 inches. How about some size comparisons? Just a few here today. Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1, there's some perspective. Big dude. And the Ontario Rat Model 2. How about up against the d.o.c.k AD 20.5? There we are. And let's do the Para 3. Let's do the Ritter Hogue. And the Bug Out. I don't know why I did everything but the PM2, so screw it. Let's go ahead and do the PM2 as well. There you go. Okay, it's a big knife. How is the action on this guy? So Kizer is known for making knives, in their caliber with good action. This guy has completely and totally fall shut action. This is actually the second one of these that I have handled. So while this one has been loved a little bit, it's been used a little bit. The other one that I handled was brand new, and it was exactly the same. There is so much blade that it's combined with Kizer's ability to do a good job with surfaces, but it's mainly just the fact that the blade is so big, right? It's fall shutty. The detent is very strong. Overcoming that detent with the flipper tab is not a problem. I would recommend you light switch it. If you push button it, it works too. It's not quite as comfortable. Flicking it out with your thumb is also pretty easy to do. What's not the easiest thing in the world to do is reverse. There we go. Because it takes a lot of force. If you push more this way than this way, it's a little bit easier. But it's one of the least easy to deploy reverse flickable knives. What a weird sentence, that I have ever handled. That detent is very heavy, so it takes a little bit of adaptation, but you can do it. Plenty of access to that liner lock there, no double clutch. It's honestly, it's pretty good other than the reverse flick. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. Thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's not an insanely thick knife. It is thick though, definitely. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. This is where you're going to notice it. Lengthwise, it is absolutely longer than the PM2 and absolutely taller. I think this dimension, if you've ever looked at this knife on a retailer and thought, I'm sure it's big, but it doesn't look that big. Here, it might look a lot like, that's the thing. You see mini and you think, okay, it's like a big little knife. No, this is like a big knife, right? I mean, it's big. It's not, okay, Cold Steel 4MAX fans are like rushing to the comment section. I carry a Cold Steel 4MAX, meh. Okay, that's neat. But I mean, for the average person, this is a big knife, right? For most people, it's a big knife. And you're going to notice it. It's a lot to, it's a lot of knife to commit to, for sure. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'll get out my tools as per usual. My tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. You can see here that the pivot is a T8. The Body screws are also T8, which is nice. Kizer likes to usually go with T6. They did with the pocket clip screws, but no big deal. Minimal hardware and mostly T8, so that's good. No issues there. Materials. This is similar to Kizer's Vanguard line. So we have micarta, a nice little, what I assume is aluminum pivot collar, steel clip, steel liners, and then we have a tumbled 154 cm blade. Let's go ahead and weigh it. I am certain that this weighs, well, I'm going to guess this weighs 6 ounces. 6.75. Oh, man, I was close. 6.84 ounces. So, nowhere near the ratios that we usually look for, but there's a lot of blade here, and surprisingly, this thing balances out right behind the pivot. So it actually, for being as heavy as it is, once you get it in hand, it doesn't feel quite as crazy. It's just you're going to be aware of the dimensions more so than the weight of it. Let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness. Not as thick as you would think. I'm going to guess that this is about 135. Let's give it a go here. Nope, it's only 125 thousandths, so really not thick at all. All right, did we get through everything? Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the meat and potatoes here. This is a big, freaking weird-looking knife. You know, it's sure gas stationy. That really is starting to lose its meaning. It's just, I think it's almost a lazy description anymore, right? Because what gas station looks like, you know, ask 10 different people and you're going to get 10 different answers. Sometimes it's overly tactical. Sometimes it's just big blade. Sometimes it's just unconventional blade or unorthodox blade. Sometimes it's rainbow. Sometimes it's all black, right? So sure, you can apply that in the laziest, most generic way possible. But it certainly is an odd blade shape. It's kind of like a giant reverse Tanto robot shark. The taper actually and the final cutting apex is, thin enough to where this will absolutely still slice. It is not an absolute laser beam. We have a little bit of, it's not tearing, but you can see the edges of the paper are rolling a bit. But it's still sharp enough to grab the edge initially and, make those little curly cues. Out at the tip, it's definitely a little bit thicker. You can see here I'm still grabbing, but there's a little bit more lipping up here. So the thinner part is down here, and then this part of the edge is much thicker. Still absolutely capable. What's interesting is that we have a third area down here that is about as thick as this area. This is really odd. The different, this edge, and this edge are three, separate thicknesses behind the edge. It's weird, right? What is the reason for that? I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. I think, honestly, it's probably just the designer having fun, which is a concept that escapes people, right? I think people who are brand new to, this area of the knife world assume that any and all pocket knives are designed with 100% utility and function in mind, and that it is impossible for any knife designer to have any fun whatsoever with the knife they're designing. That is incorrect. But this knife world is filled with people who love to do things just for fun, even if it takes away a little bit from the utility of the item. I mean, if we're talking about utility anyways, there are way too many variables and way too many circumstances, right? An infinite number of variables and circumstances in which people can argue infinitely over whether any aspect of any design is more or less functional. So shut up. I'm just kidding, but shut up. It's okay for people to have fun with the design, and I think that that's what's happening here. I think that the person who designed it just, wanted to create a sort of off-the-wall blade shape, and I think they absolutely did that here. Ergonomically, truthfully, it's pretty freaking comfortable. I think the heavy chamfering and the micarta here and just the general shape of the handle and the fact that the pocket clip is not, a freaking ski jump into your palm, actually makes it pretty comfortable. Continued use over time. I mean, really what's going to slow you down here is the fact that you're pushing not a thick piece of material, but a lot of material through whatever it is you're cutting. So there's more surface to drag on something like cardboard, even though this is a pretty high polished surface, right? The tumbled finish definitely more high polished than something that's DLC or bead blasted, right? But you're still pushing a lot of material through it. The other thing that's going to slow you down is that it is a recurve. And while a recurve is good for biting into material in the initial slice, it's not necessarily the best thing to use for breaking down cardboard. But if you've got a box to break down or two, then this will be basically 4 seconds slower than your Opinel or whatever it is that you're comparing with, right? It's just one of those blades that's not going to be the most convenient thing in the whole world. I think, for a blade that has 125 thousandths of, thickness on the spine, which, let me measure that again. I'm wondering if I accidentally grabbed the swedge when I did that. I was going to say it looks thicker than 125, but maybe I really did grab it on the flat. Yeah, I did. It's 125. Because there's so much material and because we have this crazy grind out at the end that's pretty wide, I mean, as far as, blades with this thickness go, it's going to be fairly strong out of the tip. Now, I still wouldn't recommend prying or, jamming this into a car door and trying to pry up shards of metal, which is apparently something that people do. I wouldn't recommend that, but the tip will be strong, generally speaking, for, normal, like anywhere from light to medium duty cutting tasks, right? We have a flat that runs out about 85 to 90% the length of the blade. We have little, there's sort of decorative vents. I don't know what the purpose of that is. I don't think there's any purpose. I think it's entirely aesthetic. But okay, I think without them, the knife still would have been just as striking. But they're not necessarily, they're not deep enough or aggressive enough that they're really going to catch anything while you're cutting. So okay, a couple of little tiny little jimp marks up there. I guess it does. You can get traction on it. It's not necessarily the most comfortable thing in the whole world, but you can get it. Edges up here are nicely knocked down. There really are no sharp edges other than the cutting edge and just this area right here. Inside of the little opening hole there, that's also been knocked down. We have Kizer. It says 154 cm, which is one of my favorite steels of all time. It says Mini Paragon. We have the designer's mark, and then we have this code here. It's just a lot of stuff, right? It's not hurting anything, but it's just a lot of stuff. I prefer to look at the knife and not a bunch of numbers and letters and codes and stuff like that. But as far as billboarding goes, at least it's not as bad as what Microtech does. Anybody agree with me, right? Oh my gosh. Why do they put a paragraph on their blades? Why? Right in the middle, too. I don't know. But it's fine. Kizer does one of the best tumbled finishes in this territory. They do a nice, pretty high polish and a nice, sort of, it's just like tiny scratches. So it allows you to appreciate the polish and at the same time gain the benefit of, minimal unsightly wear marks over time, which it's nice, right? 154 cm is, of course, stainless, so adding a little bit of a polish to it just adds to that. Reasonable edge retention, reasonable toughness, easy to sharpen. It's a good blade steel for a pocket knife, absolutely. I don't think this comes in any other configuration. I think your only choice is baked bean micarta and denim for the pivot collar, which is fine. It doesn't look bad at all. The backspacer back here is lifted. That's interesting. I don't know what to think of that. It doesn't really cause a problem. I suppose it kind of goes with the rest of the knife, right? It's just, it's different. The whole thing is different. The entire knife is different other than being, a liner lock. The pocket clip is sitting on top of the frame. It is curiously not milled out for left-handed carry. I don't know why they didn't do that. They should have. It just sits right on top, which is okay. It doesn't have a super aggressive bill. The thing I think is needlessly long, but I will say, as basic as it is, it does go along with the design of the knife, right? It is approaching shallow carry. You're going to have that much sticking up, but then you look at how much is actually in your pocket. I'm going to go with medium depth there. The micarta is not textured enough or abrasive enough to cause issues in and out of the pocket. I think, you shouldn't expect anything like pocket fraying or anything like that. We have that deep area right there is shouldering for the stop pin, which is nice. No blade play, up, down, left to right. No lock stick, no pivot lash. No double clutch. I think I said that earlier. Really nice lockup. Kizer does a good job. Very consistent, very smooth action. We are centered here, and there is no detent lash either. This is currently on special everywhere at about $107. MSRP list says $158, so it's safe to assume that the actual price of this originally was maybe around $120, $115, I don't know. $107, pretty competitive, honestly, whether you're looking at other things in Kizer's line or Kizer's actual general competition. Kizer manufactures knives in China, but they are one of the better, more premium companies out there that are making this stuff, and they do, I think, an exceptional job, especially when it comes to this territory. On paper, listing the materials out, right, and the general dimensions without looking at the knife, they're right there. They're on point with the price. I mean, even if this was $115, $120, it's not really that offensive. $107. Listen, if you like weird, crazy, and maybe big folding knives, then this is right up your alley. I appreciate the fact that Kizer does this. From a practical standpoint, I mean, I literally have like 50 knives that I can recommend to you first before this one. This design is not more practical than a generic, like if you're talking about just like a simple drop point blade that's been ground thin. I think that's going to make it's going to make quicker work of the general tasks that you would expect of a pocket knife. This is more of a knife that you carry because it's fun, because it's interesting, and I think that's plenty a good reason to carry it. I think this is cool. And honestly, it's stuff like this that breaks up a lot of the stuff that I get. You know, companies want to send me, they're like, look at our new design. And I'm like, wow, that looks exactly like a billion other things that I have seen, right? So if you are sick of seeing the same type of stuff over and over and over and over again, from the same companies that we see sort of leading the way, and you're just looking to mix it up, this thing is freaking cool, and it's made well. And you know what? It'll cut, right? It's probably going to be more of a conversation piece than a super duper convenient tool, but it'll get the job done. And at $107, I can't really complain. It's not a budget knife, so I can't put it in the cheap knives I like playlist. And truthfully speaking, while it has the value and materials, it's not a design that I find the vast majority of people will find beneficial, right? This is kind of like a niche within a niche kind of thing. It's neat. If you like it, buy it. You're going to be happy with it. For everybody else, there's other stuff, right? There's other crazy stuff. There's other practical stuff. But this is fun. And I want to make very clear that I appreciate it for being fun. The designer, not familiar with him, but I'm really happy that he was like, you know what? Whatever. I'm going to make something that I think is interesting. And I like that. I really do. I mean, even though that this is, it's not like we've never seen a lock like this. There's a lot of things about this knife that we have seen before, but the blade shape is unique enough and the overall profile of this knife is unique enough that I appreciate it for that. I'm repeating myself at this point. I think that's going to be pretty much it. I don't know that I really have anything else that I need to say. I will link this knife down below so you guys can check it out if you want to. Thanks again to the gentleman who sent this in, and if I can find his card, his piece of, there it is. Make sure you guys check out his YouTube channel right here. Give him a sub. I don't think he has too many videos up, but like I said, it's important to support other people in the community. It's important to get opinions from other places. So yeah, show him some love. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.